Friday morning is the busiest time at Herschel's Kosher Bakery because Friday night is Shabbat and everybody needs challah, the braided bread for the Shabbat dinner, and they'll buy other treats, a strudel, a kichel, mandelbrot. Big business day on Friday mornings. Now, Jake comes right after the morning minyan, the morning prayer service. So he's there in the bakery pretty early, while Abe purposefully does some grocery shopping so that he comes after Jake has left, because he doesn't want to be in the same room with Jake. You see, Jake and Abe are like a milkhik and fleyshik, like dairy and meat. They should never be in the same room, the same place at the same time. On this particular day, they both show up at the same time, and in moments they're arguing. They're yelling, pushing, and Herschel, the baker, is concerned. Fortunately, the rabbi comes in, as he always does on Friday mornings, to buy his challah. And the rabbi sees Jake and Abe, and he knows these guys. He knows these characters. And so he puts a hand on Jake's shoulder and says, "Jake, what's going on?" And Jake tells him the whole story, and the rabbi nods his head. "You're right, Jake, you're right." And Abe's, "Wait a minute here," and he tells his side of the story. And the rabbi says, "You're right, Abe, you're right." And Herschel, who's been watching all of this, says, "But Rabbi, these guys have been arguing and arguing. How could they both be right?" And the rabbi says, "You're right too." Merely acknowledging the truth in what somebody's saying can go a long way sometimes. Well, fortunately, Jake and Abe did not appear at the same time in the bakery for quite some time. But then that day came. It was late in the morning, so most of the customers had already come and gone. They come in and they start arguing. Pushing, shoving, a little punch. Herschel is very concerned. Without the social pressure of other people around, he's afraid they're really going to start hurting each other. In desperation, he goes across the street to the Catholic Church, and he asks the priest to hurry over. And the priest comes by, and the priest sees Jake and Abe arguing. They're arguing in Yiddish. He puts his hand on Jake's shoulder, and Jake looks and sees the priest there, and so he starts to explain his side of the story to the priest in Yiddish. In his excitement, he's just continuing in Yiddish. And after a while, Abe interjects, and he starts explaining his side of the story in Yiddish. And the priest looks at him and nods respectfully, and then looks back at Jake. And Jake has some more to say, and little by little, their voices calm down a little bit. And little by little, they turn their attention away from the priest, and they start talking to each other, but talking, not yelling and screaming. And amazingly, they reach some agreement in this Yiddish confrontation. They shake hands. And Herschel has their orders ready. He wants to get rid of them. He hands the bag to Jake. He hands a bag to Abe, and they depart. And of course, he's got the priest's regular order ready and hands it to the priest, puts in an apple strudel for good measure, refuses any payment. The priest says, "Thank you very much." But Herschel isn't satisfied. He says, "I'm just so curious. How is it that you understand Yiddish?" And the priest says, "Well, in my profession, you have to be a good listener. But of what they were saying, I had no idea." Time goes on. Jake and Abe are on more amicable terms now. They don't avoid each other so much. And they find themselves at Herschel's bakery, and they're arguing. Jake says, I'm so disappointed. It used to be the tradition in our synagogue that when we came to the mourner's prayer, only the mourners stood. The other people remained seated. But now everybody stands. And Abe says, what are you talking about? It was always the tradition in our synagogue that when it came to the mourner's prayer, everybody stood. Only the mourners said the prayer, but everybody stood. No, says Jake, only the mourners. And so back and forth. Well, Herschel wants to nip this in the bud, and he has an idea. Why don't you go see old Rabbi Schwartz? Rabbi Schwartz had been their teacher, taught them their bar mitzvah lessons. He's retired, moved to Florida. But Jake thinks this is a great idea. You see, he wants to prove Abe wrong. So he even goes so far as to buy the plane tickets for the two of them. They fly down to Florida. They rent a car. They drive to Rabbi Schwartz's apartment. They knock on the door. Rabbi Schwartz sees them. My sons, I'm so glad to see you. To what do I owe this honor? And Jake rather sheepishly says, well, Rabbi, we've been arguing. You see, it's my contention that the tradition in our synagogue has always been that for the mourner's prayer, only the mourners rise. Everybody else remains seated. And the rabbi says, no, Jake, that was never our tradition. And Abe says, well, he's got it now. What I've been saying all along is that for the mourner's prayer, everybody stands. Only the mourners say the prayer, but everybody stands. No, says Rabbi Schwartz, that was never our tradition. And so the two men say out in one voice, but Rabbi, we've been arguing and arguing and arguing. Yes, my sons, that is our tradition. Okay. This story is not a traditional Jewish story. It was told by Emo Phillips, a great comedian. The way I came to know of this story is, what was it, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there was some scandal in Europe with cartoons being published showing an image of the Prophet Muhammad, which is a no-no in the Islamic world. Big furore about it, and in the United Kingdom, they were working on legislation to regulate religious jokes, religious comics, and stuff like that. And recognizing what was going on, there's a website called the Ship of Fools, which characterizes itself as a Christian website for people who like their religion disorganized. And they held a contest for the best religious jokes. And they had 9,874 entries. And there was a poll taken, and they were in rank order, and this joke by Emo Phillips was number one. I've taken his joke and put it into a Jewish context. And since Emo Phillips tells this in the first person, I'm going to tell it to you in the first person. I'm driving along, I've got to go to the other side of the river, and so I take the Castleton-on-Hudson Bridge. You know, that's the one that's, I don't know, a few hundred feet over the Hudson River. And as I'm driving along, I see a man there on the railing. It looks like he's going to jump. I come to a screeching halt. I jump out of the car. I run over to him. I say, don't jump. You've got a lot to live for. He says, I have nothing to live for. Everybody hates me. The world is a mess. I'm thinking of something to distract him. Just change the subject. I I just blurt out, do you believe in God? He says, yes. I say, me too. Isn't that a coincidence? Say, are you part of a religion? Are you Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Hindu, Jewish? Jewish, he says. Jewish, I'm Jewish, me too. Hey, are you like Orthodox, modern Orthodox, Reform, Renewal, Reconstruction, post-denominational, trans-denominational, multi-denominational? Conservative, he says. Oh, conservative, me too. Hey, what Siddur do you use? What prayer book do you use? He says, Siddur Sim Shalom. I use that same prayer book, me too. Now, do you use the 1987 edition that was edited by Rabbi Jules Harlow or the 2002 edition edited by Rabbi Leonard Kahan? The 1987 version. No, it's the 2002 version, like you said, edited by Rabbi Leonard Kahan. Me too, I use that same one. Now, when you come to the Amida, the standing prayer, do you use page 36a that mentions just the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Or do you read page 36b that also includes the matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah? He says, 36b. I say, die, you heretic, and I pushed him off the bridge. Thank you.